So, any other exciting adventures from the week? From anybody? Oh, you got one right on the tip of your tongue.
I do. I wasn't thinking about being first. Just been having some interesting awarenesses that it wasn't that far back when I would wonder, how are we supposed to live this course in our daily lives? I mean, and I just couldn't seem to make sense out of how to incorporate, in my daily interactions with people. What did it mean to live a life of love? And so I shared with you recently about my experience with Steve, the transmission guy, and his angry approach toward relationships. And he came at me one day when I asked him to come and help outline for me how to get this transmission out of my boat. And I didn't have any reaction, which was, at the time, it wasn't until after he left that I started to be aware of how different that experience had turned out, because I didn't react. He was angry about me asking too many questions, and he was pointing out, now you got to take that stainless steel router and you got to do yada yada, and I didn't know what a stainless steel router, I didn't know what anything was on a transmission. And so I'm asking him, I said, so what's a stainless steel router? And that's when he kind of blew his gasket. He said, I could take this thing out and do it myself faster than I'm going to have to tell you. And I'm like, faster than the time it's going to take me to tell you how to do this. Of course, he was there for like 30, 40 minutes, and it was, but anyhow. But I didn't have a reaction, and afterwards I thought how interesting that was, because I have come to a place where I feel content within myself, and it's like I don't need approval from someone else. I don't need him to treat me a certain way for me to be at peace with myself, and it's just so different, because I spent most of my life trying to maneuver things around so people could validate me, and you know how that goes. And so I realized that how I'm starting to look at people is not to respond to their external, to the illusion. And all these teachings in the Course are gradually starting to take some root in me, and how I paced around in my boat after he left, just thinking about that experience, and I thought, and I said, so what happened? What happened here? And when I ask questions, the answers just always come now. It's just like they're just right there. And I realized that I wasn't responding to this external shell, to the person, to the illusion. That there's, in what I'm beginning to understand for me, and I don't know if anybody else sees it this way, but what it means to me now when I'm face to face with somebody, interacting with them, it's like it's becoming much easier to recognize that I'm counseled to see beyond. It's like these facades, these bodies we have, and these personalities are just it's a facade. It's they're costumes, and there's what I'm supposed to be seeing is the love that resides within the soul. And how I've come to see this now is that there's this facade. It's like a veil, these veils that hide what's really in there. And then there's the soul, which is covered up with amnesia. And I need to get past that and realize there's a soul in here that's beautiful love, and it's forgotten who it is. And if I can see that, then I can see myself. I can see who I am, what I am. And so this experience keeps coming back to me, and each time I reflect on it, it's like I go a little deeper in understanding. That experience with Transmission Steve, as I call him, is an opportunity for me to see myself. And I'm discovering that all day long, every experience I'm having can be the same thing, whether it's at checkout at the grocery store or wherever. And then last week, I think it was Nancy, is that her name, the taller gal with the blonde hairdo?
Yes, right.
She shared the story about who I've dubbed the Confederate man. Remember her story about that she was confronted with him, and he was promoting, his beliefs about the Confederate philosophy, I guess, and with his white T-shirt, his Confederate flag. And so I thought, I was meditating and just contemplating and closed my eyes, and I was thinking about that, and I thought, what would happen if I put myself in Nancy's place, and now it's me face to face with Confederate man? Who would I be? How would I respond to that? And I walked myself through exactly the same thing I did with Steve. Here's a facade. Here's this presenting his ego beliefs. And in the past, I would have pressed against Confederate man with my beliefs. But now I've found that all these beliefs that I've had are all conditioning. And if I set my conditioning aside, set all these beliefs aside, it's like you've got, like in karate, someone's coming at you to push against his beliefs, pushing against yours. If you just set your beliefs aside, there's nothing for him to push against. And his energy carries him on past, and nothing happens. And I thought, okay, so here I am in front of a Confederate man, and I can look past all of the facade. I put my beliefs aside, so my ego beliefs aren't pressing against his. And because that's not where I am, that's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of accepting where he's coming from, embracing him, loving him. And then what happens is that I ask myself, who am I in this relationship that I'm playing out in my mind? Who am I? And I think, I'm love, I'm patience, I'm accepting, I'm kind, compassionate. And I start thinking about all this, and I think, oh my gosh, it's just, and and then I have this peace that comes over me, and I think, oh my gosh, this is who I am. And it's just like I'm discovering who I am for the first time. It's like, and then I realized that it isn't just the experiences that I have, like with Steve. That's a one-on-one personal experience I'm having. But now I can create a one-on-one personal experience in anybody's story. Whatever story they're sharing, like Nancy shares a story, I can insert myself in there and say, who am I in that story? And I think about how, we're instructed to know ourselves, know thyself. And that's what I thought, it's this morning, I'm just in my boat, just standing there just thinking about all this stuff, and I thought, to know myself, that's what I'm doing. With every one of these experiences, I get to see who I am. And by knowing myself, I end up knowing everybody else. And all these separations just go away, and I start seeing people, through the eye of love, instead of interacting with the externals, all these facades and all the illusion. I don't know, it's just...
Randall, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yes.
That's an extraordinarily clear conception of what the course is for. I would like to make a suggestion that you write all that out, that you set a format for keeping a diary for some prescribed period of time, and do exactly what you're talking about, and then record what happens as you insert yourself into these different situations and positions, and frankly write about what happens as a result. How, in other words, what could be a more practical application of the course than that? I think that would be an extraordinarily valuable tool for many, many people.
Thank you. There's just to maybe come to closure on this. I wanted to share one thing with you, but thank you very much for saying that, Tom.
Yeah.
I've been in a place in my life lately where I keep feeling like there's something. Sometimes I get so emotional I can hardly talk. It's just there's something that I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't know what it is, but there's something that's unfolding.
I think you'll find this is the
and it's
answer.
occurred to me that all these experiences that I'm having perhaps would be worth writing about.
Yeah.
And I just accept that as a added confirmation.
Put them all into the context that you were describing us to us before. Beautiful, beautiful.
So just one thing I wanted to close with was a text that I got today. And as some of you may have realized, that Nicole and I have found some wonderful connection between us, and the synchronicity of what happens between us every few minutes, every day is just stunning to me. And so when I'm walking around my boat and I'm realizing how all of these experiences in my life are helping me see the truth, anyway. She sends me this. Myself is the ruler of the universe. I am loving awareness. What I am aware of, I love. And I just said to her, wow, what a timely message. It was just beautiful. Anyway.
I think, this is really well said, Randall, what you shared with us. And, thanks to Scott, we can go on YouTube and get that whole thing anytime we want. And I think that's really worthwhile to have that on YouTube.
Well, thank you all for letting me share. And I love your stories, and I'm finding that they're also meaningful to me. And my life is enriched because of you. So.
And vice versa.
I'll quit with that.
Thank you, Randall. Thank you. Anyone else?
Wonderful, because this is my process that I don't know if it's in consciousness right now, but anyways, it's moving through me to see what seem to be like the villains, like someone like Trump or any villain of history at any time, but also to see the victims. This is the people that Trump seems to be hurting are the same as the victim and the victimizer are not different. You see past both facades. Nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing has changed.
Right.
The truth of who they are.
Right. You know, I thought about that. That was part of my process with that, because I used to watch the news a lot, and I'd get all riled up about everything and going on around the world. And then my question was, well, what can I do? What can I do to participate, to help, in this thing? And what I was just sharing with you is how I realized that's how I'm meant to do that. By loving everybody that I come in contact with, I am changing the collective consciousness. And this thing about resisting, I don't have to get involved in protesting these events going on around the world. Who was it, Mother Teresa, when she say something to the effect that when they asked her to protest the war, and she says, bring me something that I can...
She said, when you have a rally for peace, I'll be there,
yeah,
rather than a rally against war.
And so I found relief, and I find myself not very interested in the news anymore. It's like there's so much to do just in my circle of influence, and anyhow. So so how do you handle these world issues?
Exactly. It's interesting. I've lost interest in the news actually, because even the newscasters become the facade. I mean, when something serious is going on, there's something horrible. Look at what they've done. Yeah. I see them, then I see who they're reporting about, then I see the seeming victims. And I work as a therapist, so everybody's got a story, and I worked this is where Tom and I have done work in the jail in Kauai. Mm-hmm. And then you see the story of, these were victimizers, these guys were not, they've done some pretty heinous things by the world standards, but once you see past the facade,
yeah.
And then that's what they respond to, that's what they start to, they feel that. And but you bring it wherever, I'd say, appears in my mind. Whoever.
So you could do the same thing with Trump.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to pick on him. And, and you can look at Trump and do the same thing that I'm finding myself doing with everybody.
Yes.
That you look past the facade and you realize that there's a beautiful soul, glorious light that resides therein, that's forgotten who it is.
That's it.
And you just love. You love everything and everybody. It seems so simple, but what a mystery to try to get there. It's
to maintain. This is
to maintain.
Yeah. I'm interested in awakening people that are awake, that seem to be able to hold that vision of it doesn't waver.
If we only loved the ones who agree with us, we would be sorry individuals, wouldn't we? We have to, if we offer love, it has to be unconditional love, or it's really not love.
Right.
So we're either loving it all or attacking it all. And I don't want to be, I'm not in the attack mood anymore. Haven't been for a long time.
And the Course says the holiest place on earth is the spot where an ancient hatred has become a present love.
I love that.
And I recently, a few weeks ago, I taught a Reiki class. And my students, when you first go through Reiki, you're just so excited by the end of it all. You're feeling all that energy. And there's this wonderful opening that seems to happen for people. And my students wanted to send, wouldn't it be something to organize people all gathering and sending Reiki, sending that beautiful light energy and they were bringing up stories of things Trump had done to people, to the victims, victims at the border. And I said, what would probably be more powerful what I'd love to see is, what if we gathered people all over the globe to send Reiki to Trump? And they, oh my God. You know, it was just, and when I said it, it just came out of me. And when I said it, I could feel so much love, because what it would do for the people sending it as well as him. You know, that all that discord inside of those who are upset at what he's doing, to turn it around and say, we're going to send you a higher vibration. We're going to support you, support the truth in you, is a really different idea than just supporting all the victims, right? It's so different.
I often
It's
ask,
so different.
who would I not hold hands with as I walked into heaven?
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
What?
to me, that just, okay, which child of God would I not hold hands with as I walked into heaven? And I can't think of anybody that I would say, sorry kid, not you. You know, it just couldn't happen. So, you know, politics is just politics, and people are just people. But we're
Yes.
all children of God. And so every one of us is a close relative, a brother, a sister. Which brother or sister would I not hold hands with when I walked into heaven?
Actually, it brings to mind something I had shared yesterday around, I had watched Tina Spalding that did the autobiography of Jesus that she was asked to do by him, and that he's doing every lesson online, where he'll do a commentary on each lesson after it's read. And that started in January this year, the New Year's Day. But then he does twice a month, like an hour and a half of answering questions through her. And I listened to a number of them, and I just absolutely love it. It's like sitting at the feet of Jesus today, where he's speaking in today's language. He's funnier than heck, you know, he's still a rebel today that he said he was then. But I listened to the one that was on choice, and one of the big issues around abortion, and about when does the soul enter the body, and whatever. And the way that he addressed it in such a way, because I've really been kind of on the forefront in a lot of different changes that have gone on for women over the last 50, 60 years. And he addressed that in such a way that really put my heart at ease. And it was, again, turns around and asks that question, because he addressed that, you know, the soul inhabits the body doesn't inhabit the soul, and that it can go in and out and choose when to go and whatever. And around women, which he's really talks a lot about women and women's rights, and he addresses it in such a way that I always felt so strong was true, and that was that it's the hardest choice that a woman will ever make. And of course, as to what to do, you know, with her own body should be a choice. And he said the soul can go in and out of the body a number of times before it even decides to stay in that one or be in another one, particularly if the situation is not a good situation. And he said that, you know, you're not killing the soul, you know, you're just choosing a different body. And he said for that woman who has to make that choice, I mean, to me, that's a lifetime choice. He said, so if she's chosen to keep the baby and she's got difficult challenges, then find a way that you can help. Find some, you know, it's like ask that question, how can I help? You know, and find some organization that supports these women, or some way that you can help somebody that is having challenges. On the other side, he said, if a woman has made a choice to not and have an abortion, that's the most difficult situation that can plague her for life. Don't add to that, but see how you can support her in that difficult choice to make her okay. So, I mean, it was like he spoke to both sides so beautifully. that I started looking at now, so who can I help, on this one side? Because that's one of the biggest issues right now going on. So it comes back to even like you at the time, when there's this pro or con, it's like you ask that question, how can I help? If you're upset, instead of just being upset, like you said, don't worry about it, don't get upset about it, take that energy and say, if you really want to do something, then put it in action somewhere as to where you can be, and my words would be part of the solution instead of part of contributing to the problem. But it was just beautiful the way that he addressed such a major issue, and he's done that in so many things like the Amazon, the forest fires and stuff, where I hate to even see a tree cut, and the way he addressed it, put my, and the fires all over that helped put the mind at ease. But it is carrying that place of non-judgment, not to worry, not to add to all of that. In fact, I was just writing while you were talking, I put loving is acceptance. Life is acceptance. Peace is acceptance. What is acceptance. Forgiveness is acceptance. It's all accepting what is. And then make a choice. If you have a question, how can I help? Or, what would love do? And open to what that might be with helping that situation that's in front of you.
What I'd like to do now, much in keeping with what we've been discussing so far, is to ask each of us to go inside and ask yourself, what would be the one thing that would either A, be most helpful, or B, be least likely to help you awaken? You should have all had an answer by now. If you've still got your eyes closed, you didn't like it. But you've had an answer. So I'd like to start around the room and share what comes up as a result of that. Incidentally, the reason for that is that every so often I find that if we do not become clear in our own thinking about what it is that we are after or trying to avoid, our studying is going to go for naught. So we need to be clear. Is there something that would be very helpful, or is there something that is holding you back? Be clear. Jim?
I look at everything, and rather than saying, what does Jim think about it, I say, what does love think about it? And because I do that now, continuously, I just don't see circumstances where, I don't think there's any place where I would not be able to respond with love. I can't think of a situation whereas that could happen. And so I'm thinking, we teach best what we most need to learn. That's a common idea. But also we learn how to love by teaching how to love. And it's like, well, I'm not too sure who's the driver and who's the passenger here in this situation, but the idea to me is always, how would love respond? And then I've never yet come to a place where I said, no, I totally disagree. That is how I'm going to do it. And I am happy. I'm content. I'm at peace. Yeah, and I got younger I got children and grandchildren who are saying, Grandpa, how old do you think you'll be when you die? You know, do you have to ask? And I said, I think I'll be the right age.
That's great.
Exactly.
Good answer. Good answer.
Children are wonderful teachers.
That'd be great. That's good.
Yeah, I didn't mean to skip over you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the first thing that just popped into my mind, and then it was just period after that, it said to love myself, period. And then I'm like, isn't there more? And it's like, no. So,
We're told that the world, the entire world, is a mirror for how we see ourselves. So how would you love if you didn't begin with yourself?
I think you could.
I don't think you could either.
Yeah. And the more we love ourselves, the more we love others. It's kind of like the line between us blurs real fast.
Love is this beautiful thing that we have been given, but it's not a feeling, and it's not an emotion. It's a state of mind.
It's a what?
State of mind.
State of mind, yes.
It's a total state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anything that doesn't fit in that state of mind, then you got the wrong state of mind. You got to look for something else. Love has no opposite, and that's what Brother means when he tells us that. There is no opposite to loving. So if I'm loving, having a wonderful day, and something pops up that I don't love, I think I've been having a different kind of day.
It's lesson time.
It is lesson time.
Yeah. Actually, I enjoy those moments when I suddenly realize it's lesson time. Because I want clarity on love. I don't know if I can even say what I'm trying to say. I want Jim to fall away and love to be the one who lives here.
I don't think Jim is any different from that love that lives here, though.
Well, whatever. It's been fun, and I wouldn't change a nickel of it anywhere along the line.
Well, you ask us to think in two different ways, like if we, what would be help us to awaken, or what would we give up, or what would we do to awaken, what would we give up to be able to awaken? I didn't get anything with the first one, but I came up with immediately, stop judging, and then all of a sudden it very big words of you. Well, I don't think I'm going to say any more about that. But evidently stop judging, and then, like I said, it said you. So I have to think of it. But that's very
Good.
Probably goes along with what Patty said, love yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my tendency is to, after something's gone, go over it and say, oh, well, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. And I haven't done that. I thought I'd given that up, but I found myself doing that again when we came back to the Northwest. As that's kind of been one of the lessons that I've been working with. But, I could go read Robert Holden's book, and I'm doing a lot of things like that, to look at all that. But basically what it is, I need to stop judging me. I don't have to judge how I respond. I just have to be who I really am. And that's what I want to be. That's what I want to do.
Teresa?
Well, this is what I do now. When something makes me uncomfortable, or if there's any kind of an emotion that's not peaceful, I know that I need to reframe it in love. And I've been going to the words, the Ho'oponopono words, immediately. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I will say those over and over again until I can feel peace again. And I'm just trusting that, and things are going along pretty well.
Ho'oponopono, incidentally, is the Chinese tradition of, Hawaiian tradition of refusing to let the sun set on a grievance.
Say that again.
Refusing to let the sun set on a grievance.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But I know I'm not seeing it the way love sees it. So that's my immediate response to reframe it.
And since you are loved, what could be more natural than for you to ask to see it differently? Did you come up with anything?
I do not have to worry about what to do or what to say, because he who sent me will direct me. And that's where I want to go. But I'm still attached to my personality.
To your...
Personality.
It's okay.
Sometimes it feels hard to separate those two things, those two ideas
Yeah.
of being.
Yeah, but listen for just a moment. When you say to yourself, I'm so attached, what are you really saying? I don't like it. I have judged against it. And when that happens, teach yourself in that moment to see the greatest opportunity to love yourself that you've had all day.
To love yourself what?
That you've had all day.
The greatest opportunity to love
To love
yourself
yourself what?
that you've had all day. He said to realize that you have the greatest opportunity. What did you say? Now I've lost it. The greatest opportunity to love yourself that you've had all day. Did I get it right, Tom?
You did. Very perfect.
Very good.
Oh, it's so fun.
Just before I got here, in fact, I was on YouTube and it kicked up and I loved what it said, and it was actually just the face of, I didn't open this, but it had Lucy, you know, I love Lucy, and it had her picture and it just said, my personal religion is to first love myself and then all else falls into place.
A wise saying.
And I just thought, oh, that just struck me, so I had written it down and I just wrote it again. So.
No wonder we all love Lucy.
Why what?
No wonder we all love
I'm
Lucy.
right, because she loves herself first, so everybody else loves her. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Be fully open to God's gifts of joy. Came through, and I do love to laugh.
Thank you.
And I think lately what's been really helpful to me out of A Course in Miracles is to remember that all behavior is temporary. And I just say it that way, and it's just, I'm remodeling that house and have a lot of contractors in. And so I just, all behavior is temporary. And that came to me.
You are
in A Course in
flooded with
Miracles.
opportunities.
Yes, I'm filled with opportunity.
Bob?
My thing is ask Holy Spirit. This is something that I've started doing more and more of everything, not just what I consider the big things, which is the way I used to do it. Now it's everything. And I'm finding that as I do it more, I feel like I'm taken care of more because I'm not in charge anymore. And that a higher power than I is allied with me, and that feels very good.
Wise choice.
You know what they call someone who thinks they're in charge? An atheist.
An atheist.
An atheist.
Lesson 194
I wouldn't-
is what
I
I
wouldn't have
opened
been quite
to
so
that
kind.
exact thing, and
I would have
it's
said you called
before.
him stupid.
And there's a whole thing online with Marianne Williamson doing lesson 194. And it's, I place my future in the hands of God. And that whole thing addresses exactly what you're talking about. It's, you know, and that whole thing, you know, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. But it is perfect. And then the next one after that 195 was I walk in grace. But both of those would address exactly what you're talking about there so well as to, because then you let go of the past, you let go of the future, so there's no worry, no futurizing, pasteurizing, and you're just present with what is. And it just, that whole thing, it's a long lesson, but 194 I highly recommend. Or go online and listen to her and her discussion of it for about an hour and a half. After reading that, it's really good.
Thank you.
Promise us that you'll think of us, and that way we won't have to miss you.
What, I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Promise us that you will think of us
Oh,
as you travel around, and that way we won't have to miss you.
like daily? Yeah, more than that, yeah, I really will. This whole experience has been, for me, a lesson in patience. And initially, when I knew that I really should be closer to family, and for other reasons should let go of my house, which I love, been in for more than 25 years, and finally just have it the way I want it, love it. And so then I began to sort of resent the fact, but I put it out there initially, and with the idea that I just hope it will go to somebody who loves it as much as I do. Now, I know we're supposed to let go of all that kind of stuff, but it still has meant a lot to me, and it's taken a lot of hard work over the years for it to get the way that it is. And I said last week, I hope you'll all decide for me that that house is not sold, these people won't want it. And I found out just a couple of days ago, the realtor, their realtor was there, and I said, is there by chance any chance that they might have changed their mind? And she said, oh no, they love the house. They looked all over for something that was unusual, and this was what they chose, and it is an unusual house. It's an octagon, and we expanded it and so on. So I thought, oh, well, I got what I asked for. And so this whole thing has been a lesson in patience, and even though I've let go of some, missed some opportunities because the house wasn't sold, and some things that I thought I wanted were all gone, and then decided against something that I thought was too small, and then wound up with an apartment. And my first thought was, it sort of reminds me of a dismal second-class motel. And so I began to get a little depressed about that, and but then I got the floor plan of it, and it had bigger rooms, it had closets, and I started making some pieces of furniture and laying it out on the plan, and I found out that, wow, you know, this is so much better than what I had thought. And so anyway, without going into more detail about that, it's just been such a lesson in kind of ups and downs, but you know, finding that all these things work out. Even just after the meeting last week, I was out just for a walk. I thought, I've got to get out and take a walk. And that's when I met Diane and her little dog. And we struck up this wonderful conversation and visits back and forth. And she's taking this grand piano that I needed to give away. And, you know, things are working out. And I don't have to be in charge, which I've tried all along to be. So it's, for me, if I can remember that I always have a choice. And I can choose anger, I can choose frustration, I can choose the fruits of the Spirit, but it's a choice. So if I can just stay on the right side of the choices, I think things will be good.
It feels good not to be in charge.
Yeah, yeah. You're so right, Bob.
We may miss you anyway.
I'm sorry?
We may miss you anyway.
You may. I hope, well, I should say I hope so, but I really, this is just from the very first time that you put an ad in the Voice, not an ad, but an article in the Voice that you were going to start a group, and I had already been with the course, not in a group before, but on my own. And that was, what, I don't know how many years ago, Teddy? A long time ago. I think Teddy and I were the only ones that started out in that group, and then gradually it got bigger
About
and bigger.
3 at the beginning, was it? Or there were about 3 of you at the beginning, the first group we got.
Yeah, I seem to remember
a few
about
more.
8 of us there or something.
Yeah, there were a few more.
A few more, but, and a few
Val
stayed
and
with
you
it,
and
some have
I.
died, yeah.
Yeah, and then Teresa came, but I was the first.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Scott, what came up for you?
My thoughts are the only thing I can ever change, and it's the only thing that ever needs to be changed. And I find a lot of peace with that. And the more I can remind myself of that, the more peace I have.
That's so true.
Because my thoughts are always based on what's not real.
Which thought do you have which now shows you to be awakened?
That I'm love. And I can't be anything but love. It's not even possible. So any thought that says I'm not love, it's part of what's not real.
I wrote down to love the I am as I am right now. And every morning before I get out of bed, I have my talk with the Holy Spirit. And I just put the day into His hands, and I want the kind of day I want to have. For example, today was golf day, but it was wet and mushy, and I thought, yeah, that's not what I want to do today. But I didn't know what I was going to do today. I had a wonderful day. I studied and did my readings and did a little laundry. Then I cleaned the garage, swept it out. Then I went in and I made zucchini soup. It's all ready for dinner for tonight. I just had a beautiful day, and then changed my clothes to come to class. I'm at much more peace and really loving, taking care of me, the spiritual and the physical, and that I have a community now with the Unity Church that I love everybody there. And it fills so many needs that I have. That I don't have any needs. It just is in this gratitude class that I take with the girls. Life's good. And I'm happy.
Been missing you guys.
I
I'll
know.
be back.
What is life, Teddy?
What is life? It's just being.
Being in love.
Remember when I told you when I went to Hawaii, I said, everybody at the hospital in San Jose said, well, what are you doing that for? What are you leaving your wonderful job and everything, And I said, well, I know how to do, but I sure don't know how to be. Look how many years it's taken me to learn how to be. But it's okay. It's come like it's supposed to.
Yes. Just exactly like it's supposed to. Nicole, what about you, darling?
So I believe the question was, what is it that will help me to awaken, to be clear
Is it best
about what
help
it
you or
is?
best, or is your
About
biggest
what it
hindrance?
is. So, to be interested in love's agenda rather than awakening. That's what it is for me.
Say that again?
To be interested in love's agenda rather than awakening. And love's agenda equals the Holy Spirit's purposes for my life. So that, and so that's very much what Bob was talking about. It's just being interested in love's agenda is just continually being interested in Holy Spirit's purposes in my life rather than the personal agenda, and continually handing it over, and to the point where a lot of times there isn't this actual thought about handing it over. It's just automatic. It's just this what's my intention here? And it's obvious what the intention is that it's love. And so, and resting in the realization that that's all that's going on ever is love through everything, even all the appearances, everything reinterpreted by Holy Spirit is just beautiful. And so getting to that place of just allowing life to be reinterpreted if there's a moment of unpeace is incredible. It's just incredible.
Yeah, that might
And
work.
it's a moment-to-moment thing,
It might work.
So that's good.
Incidentally, I brought you a book today, so don't forget it before you leave.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Randall?
Well, there was a pivotal point in my life, not that far back, that I know is what changed everything as far as my journey is concerned. And that was the moment when I became willing to be willing. That's what launched me into awakening. Before that, it was so much studying and ideas and intellectual, trying to understand how everything was supposed to work. And then there was something that happened in recent months that when I just realized that I'm ready to be willing. And what I discovered was that was the pivotal point. That was when the Spirit was able to get through. And it's like I listened to all of you and all of the things that we've talked about, the loving ourselves and don't judge and on down. I made a note of what everybody said, and I thought all of those things have come to me because I'm willing to listen. I'm willing. And I'm not only willing, but I'll listen. And not only do I listen, but I'm willing to act and to follow through. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, and it's getting easier. I'm willing to follow through with what I hear, with what the messages that come to me. And they come to me through these kinds of experiences, listening to others. It comes to me through my reading, and it comes to me through videos and books and just thoughts in my mind. And it's just like it just comes and comes. And it's I've had moments lately where I find myself feeling like I'm in, what did I say the other day?
Which day?
spiritual,
You said so many things.
this, what is it when we're dizzy and,
Spiritual vertigo.
yeah. Like I feel like I'm just, so much comes into my, it's just like comes so fast and I just find myself holding my head. I just feel like I just can't stand it anymore. I have to pause and think and just be still. And it's just so exciting because I've wanted this for so long and I was just so, I blocked because I wasn't willing to let go of these things I've been hanging on to. And this, so anyways, my answer to your question, what is it that to help in my awakening? It was the moment, for me it's just being willing. And then everything seems to just come as fast as I can absorb it. And I don't, it's effortless. It's just phenomenal. Anyway. Now I wanted to comment on one more thing about, you're talking about writing. And I have been discussing with Nicole, and I have, literally thousands of pages of notes. I just write and write and write, and then I put them in a pile and put them somewhere, and I start over again. And it's just like, and I've been trying to figure out how in the world to organize all this stuff that's going on in that I'm doing and writing. And so Sunday, we went to Walmart and I bought a pile of journals. And you're saying, I'm really touched by what you said.
Good.
Because I just feel like it's a real validation that I want to organize and to write down these experiences in a way that they can be useful and not in piles. So that's it, I'm done.
Billy?
Amen on that last part. The words while you were talking, when you kept saying willing to be willing, you know what I wrote after that was letting go. Because just before that was the thought, as to what your question was, and what came through was, I don't know. This is a huge thing to say, I don't know. And that's all part of, giving up, letting go, being willing, being all of that. Because I think even as I can ever remember, practically as a baby, was the need to know, a know-it-all, that I should know. And I shouldn't bother somebody else, if I can do it myself, and I should know what to do. I should know this. So that's a huge one in turning over. And I realized, like, when I spent, which has been quite a while, and I'm just looking at doing it now this fall, but very extended periods of time out in the woods, and camped on a river, and I realized, I remember then how it was like, there could be, to go, because there was a lot of letting go there, but it was just like all at once, here's all these classes, and it didn't matter. It's like when there is no choice. It's the choice beyond choices where there is no choice. There just is. And it doesn't matter because it all goes the same place. When I'm in that right place. Or when I'm loving myself, I know automatically the energy is I love everyone and everything. And so I think it must be, it's emotional, that letting go of that need to know, that surrendering, which I remember was the first time being cradled in a seminar, which I've been very extensively since the 70s, facilitating and working in seminars and stuff. And the first song I ever played was Sweet Surrender. And then when I was assistant to the co-founder of LifeSpring, and my girlfriend that I'd gotten involved in Texas wanted me to come down there because she wanted to start a center. So they told me if I'd go down there, they'd start a center down there. And I was going, no. And she sent me the state of Texas emblem. And on the back was engraved, Sweet Surrender. So for some reason or other, that all surrender keeps kicking up right now to around that letting go. And letting go of that need to know, which is that ego part that should know.
Good luck. I say good luck.
Huh?
Good luck. In other words, good fortune in your searching.
That's good. I didn't quite hear that.
I'm wishing you well.
Oh, thank you.
John?
And this is a powerful session here today. This is it's resonating. We had a meditation this morning, and that was part of this. Some questions about the lesson, but it came through finally to be loving. It resonated with some of the, like, loving the flawed self when I do fall short. This is what bothers me when you talk about the agitation. It's like, why can't this be permanent? Why isn't this embodied? Why does it come and go? And the love, and this is so obvious, be loving. And just the things that happen today, it's acceptance. And that's what Brother told Tom when he asked, how do you know if you're awake? He says, when you find nothing unacceptable. And it was, so what is that? That means you're loving. That means you're forgiving. That means there's nothing to resist. There's no judgment. That came up today. All of that is happening, and it's, but I think to love the flawed self, because I have, there's guilt, a lot of guilt stuff that, where it's from other life, that I don't know where it's all from, but I have to forgive it, I have to love it, I have to, and it starts with seeing everybody else that seems to have all the flaws, to love them, and then whatever the flaws are in me, okay, so be it, I love it. Love it all.
I've just been wondering what I could say, and I feel there's one phrase that has stayed with me for many years, and it is, love is the answer regardless of the question. And that's been my motto for many, many years. Love is the answer regardless of the question.
Linda, I've been thinking that all the way around the entire circle. We're speaking Linda's favorite saying. This whole time is Linda's favorite saying, just put so many different wonderful ways. It's all in honor of your favorite that you bring to our attention so often. Thank goodness that you do.
But you, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I just am so enjoying the pleasure of your love all being expressed so beautifully today. This is really a gift to each other, I think, today.
Yes.
And thank you, each one of you, for sharing the love that is so real and we so seldom let out. You know? Thank you.
Dallas, how about you?
Yes, I'll go and then it'll be your turn if that's all right.
Yeah, you just skipped over one there.
The message I got was that I need to allow my idea of what I think the Son of God is to be changed. And thus allow what I think I am to be changed in my mind
as well. Because I've recognized for a number of years that despite having seeming difficulties with other people in the world, quote unquote, my problem has always been with God. It has always been with my idea of what I think God is. And then I realized years ago that it wasn't my idea of what I think God is, but it's my idea of what I think the Son of God is. And that has been my problem. And as long as I have a problem with that, I will have a problem with what I think I am. So it's this idea of the prodigal son and the journey that I seem to be on and the part I seem to be playing within this combined, consolidated prodigal journey. And the purpose of it and the acceptance of it that I need to be open to receiving a broader perspective on.
During our John's and my meditation, when we used to live together in Hawaii, we had a guest house on our little flower farm, and John lived in that guest house. And every Friday night when his working week was done, Linda would fix us a special dinner, and we would all sit around and watch Seinfeld or something very spiritual.
Very well, yes. Seinfeld.
So now when we get together again, on the occasions when we allow ourselves to be together, we like to meditate together. We generally can come up with a consensus of a thought and just together pursue that thought and see where it takes us. And this morning, John and I, quite uncharacteristically, were both having a little trouble trying to make sense of the thought, which was the thought in our lesson today, where Brother says, well, rather than me try to...
Myself
is ruler of the universe.
is the ruler of the universe. Myself with a capital S.
Right. Where he says, you are the self whom you created, Son, creating like yourself and one with you. What would that mean?
That's where I go, Tom, right there. That's what I'm talking about.
So what does that mean to you?
It goes to the age-old question throughout time of free will. And what I am doing, what I've done on this prodigal journey or dream or whatever you call it, and whether I am responsible for it. And when you read that, it sounds like I am only when I am everything.
Only when you are what?
Everything. All that God is and all that God appears not to be. But like the introduction says, fear is the opposite of love. But what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Therefore, the Course can be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Mm-hmm. So what am I responsible for if God is everything? So if I've had a prodigal journey, I have projected what I thought was my guilt, first out to others in my journey. like we talk about watching the news and stuff. And then realizing what was going on, that I projected it onto what I thought was God. My guilt, my thought of guilt. But then I realized I was projecting it onto the Son of God, or my idea of Christ, or Jesus. And so I'm wondering where my responsibility lies. Am I going to blame someone for a dream, is what it boils down to. Am I going to blame some other entity for my dream? Or am I going to take responsibility for it when I know who I am, with the capital letters? And then, the message I got is actually, the way it came was, I need to forgive my idea of what I think the Son of God is. And I need to have that willingness to be willing. So I appreciate how you put that, man. And I realize I'm really getting closer and closer. And the closer I get, the more ego has a problem with it. So this is an approximation of where I find myself now. Fortunately, I know the inevitability of the result of the journey. But there's enough ego left, so even that bothers it. If it's inevitable, why do it? But that I have, because of searching so much that I have, I can actually come with a rational reason why. It had to be done, and it's there in that introduction. If you think about it, if God had anything to fear, God would not be omnipotent. So it seems that God itself would have to look at everything that would represent fear and resolve it. And that's what we're doing through our forgiveness. We're resolving everything in our lives through forgiveness. And this is where it says in the Course that when Jesus says, every time you forgive, I am born again.
I am what?
Born again. And this is what Nicole brought up with the idea of every ancient hatred that's turning into a present love. And this, to me, is the idea of life when we talk about what is life. This is the living God, or the Christ. But I haven't gone to that last bit of willingness yet. But I feel those who have, and it feels good. And so this has been a wonderful meeting, the kind that I don't know who else in my circle of life could have put forth except Tom. I just want to express one more time how much I appreciate you and what you do, and you and Linda have done as long as I've known you.
I want you to finish your thought.
That's unanimous.
I want you to finish. You were having...
When I took my discouragement to Brother today, and much as John described, I just honestly told him, I don't understand. That all sounds so much like so much gibberish to me. It doesn't sound helpful. What should I do? Where should I go? And he said, rather than try to rely on your ego to be obedient, do this. Be grateful for your willingness to be loving, not for your success in being loving, but just for your willingness to be loving. And suddenly it just was like everything fell away. All of the machinations, the feelings of disappointment, they didn't matter. If as Tom suggests, it is inevitable that we will awaken, that we will see the glory of the self that is the reality of who we are, then what makes the difference? What we do now, if we are willing to be loving. Just that. Just be willing to be loving.
That goes compartment, fits with love is the answer regardless of.
Exactly.
You see?
Exactly.
You see? Every one of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Love is the answer.
Yes. You so beautifully illustrate being the presence of love, Darla.
There was something on the calendar, the ACM calendar for September 10th. It's merely our job to so deeply align our hearts and minds with His Spirit within us that our lives then become involuntary instruments of His will. It's our job to so deeply align our hearts and minds with God's Spirit within us that our lives then become involuntary instruments of His will. And the involuntary part is so beautiful. You know, if we're aligned with that Spirit within, then we are the instruments of God's will.
I want to share, today is the day that Jerry died, my husband, 4 years ago. It's hard to believe 4 years have gone by.
I think you have done or used those 4 years so lovingly and so well that you have been a wonderful example for all of us.
Thank you.
Yes. True, honey. True.
Could you share?
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we say in Hawaii, it sounds like we're
I saw you. I mean, I didn't see you.